Are you ready? You think you can tell us what to do? You think you can tell us what to wear? You think that you're better? Well, you better get ready. Bow to the masters. Break it down! They generate into something fool. We just got tired of doing what you told us to do. That's a break, boy. Yeah, that's a break, little man. Break it down. Degeneration up. Degeneration up. You think you can tell me what to do? You know who you're talking.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tiger Joker Unleashed. I am Tiger Joker. I know we usually go live on Wednesday, but I had a couple things come up, wasn't able to, but we're here now. I appreciate anyone who is joining, or if you're going back and watching this later, I do appreciate it. It means a lot, having the support of the people really, drives you to do this more. And that's what I'm trying to do. So I appreciate it if you are here or watching this and going back and watch it. A couple things we're going to cover today. We're going to cover LSU football makes it higher, big hire. Familiar face back into the program. We're going to talk about it. LSU baseball season comes to an end. It's been a tough season, and a lot of things had to happen at the end for us to keep going. Well, they didn't. The Tigers lose. The season's over. We're going to talk about it. What we can see going forward, things like that. LSU basketball making some noise in the media, in the country. Will Wade putting his staff, putting his team together. People don't like it the way he's doing it, but we're going to talk about it and, why what he is doing. I mean, he's not breaking any rules. We're going to talk about it. LSU girls softball playing in Super Regional starting today. Looking to get to Oklahoma. So we're going to talk about that. Before we get started, I want to recognize our sponsor. Not only our sponsor, but our merchandise maker. If you can see back here, first shirts for the podcast are made. They look good. They really look good. This is, this right here is just the Tiger Joker shirt, not the Tiger Joker Unleashed shirt, but right here, this is the old shirt. That's the new shirt. Reach out. If you want one, reach out. Let me know. I can get you one. Before we go further, let's recognize our sponsor. And from embroidery to custom apparel and DTF prints, let KAJ Southern Designs bring your ideas to life with quality and style. Whether it's for your business, team gifts, special events, or personal, KAJ Southern Designs has you covered for all your apparel needs. Not only is KAJ Southern Designs a sponsor of Tiger Joker Unleashed, they are also the provider for Tiger Joker Unleashed apparel. Local pickup or shipping available. Message KAJ Southern Designs to order today. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at KAJ Southern Designs or online at KAJSouthernDesigns.com. Locally owned and operated out of Santa Maria, Louisiana. So there you have it. KAJ Southern Designs is your apparel company. If you're looking for custom apparel for yourself, for your business, for an event coming up, anything like that, reach out to them. Get what you need. Great prices, great people, great merchandise. So reach out. So we're going to start off a little LSU football. It's May, middle of May. Really not much going on with LSU football, but they make it higher. Coach O returns to LSU football. Yes, the same Coach O, who is a national championship coach with 2019 team, is now back at LSU. LSU is the place to come. If you get fired by LSU, there's always a chance to come back. You have Will Wade. You have Johnny Jones as his assistant, both fired by LSU, now back with the program. You have Coach O, fired by LSU, now back with the program. You have John Brady, who was fired as an LSU basketball coach, but now he's on the LSU broadcast for LSU basketball. So that's 4 former head coaches who are now part of the program. You don't see that. I can guarantee you LSU is the only team in the country where that it's taking place. Pretty much guarantee that. But Coach O returns, and his title would be Special Assistant to Recruiting and Defense. You know anything about Coach O? He's one of the best recruiters in the country, without a doubt. The man can go into a house and sell this program to these kids, to their family, to their parents. And that's what you need. He's always been the top recruiter in the country. He is one of the best defensive line coaches in the country of all time. He's worked with LSU, Ole Miss, USC, Tennessee, New Orleans Saints. He's been all over, and he is known for being a top of the line defensive line coach. Now, I'm not saying that, he's going to step in and coach the defensive line. No, he's going to help out where he's needed. You have Kevin Peoples. You have Sterling Lucas as your defensive end coach. But to have Coach O there helping out, Coach O, the same guy that's learned from the great Pete Jenkins, knows everything there is about defensive line play. To have him on the field and as an assistant helping your defensive line grow is major, especially when you got guys like Richard Anderson, Deuce Geralds, Lamar Brown coming in. These young freshmen, they can mold them to be the defensive line players that they want and they need. You have, like I said, you have Kevin Peoples, who last year coaches the ends, this year moves inside to coach the defensive line. When you bring over Sterling Lucas from South Carolina, who is more of an end coach, he steps into that. Kevin Peoples moves inside. Now you have Coach O to help both of these guys out to mold the defensive line the way you want it. I mean, Coach O he's a great asset to this team. Did he work out as a head coach? He did when he first came in. He assembles this 2019 team that could be the greatest college football team ever. Coach O was the mastermind behind that. Now, you have players that were held over from, the Miles days, but Coach O brought in Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's not at LSU without Coach O. So, give the man the credit. He coaches the 2019 team to a national championship. Now, things kind of went down after that. Personal things going on with Coach O, and he gets fired. Doesn't mean he's not a great recruiter. Doesn't mean he's not a great defensive line coach. He also has a very, very long relationship with Lane Kiffin. They coached together at USC. They coached together at Tennessee. And Lane Kiffin was coming to LSU to be the offensive coordinator when Coach O gets hired, if he doesn't get the FAU job. He was coming to LSU to be the offensive coordinator. That was the plan Coach O had in place coming in. And if it wasn't for the FAU job, he is your offensive coordinator in 2019, the year you win the national title. I mean, we did pretty good with Steve Ensminger and Joe Brady, but that just tells you the relationship that Coach O and Coach Kiffin have. Coach Kiffin, his very first opening press conference, he talks about driving through LSU on the way to the stadium when he first arrived, and just channeling his Coach O, just seeing the university makes him want to channel Coach O. That's what he means to the man. Coach O means a lot to Lane Kiffin. Coach O has been around Lane Kiffin's dad. So the relationship they have, the experience Coach O can bring of being an LSU head coach, the culture, the fans, everything else, everything that he can bring to Lane Kiffin is a huge asset. Another thing, Coach O is allowed to go off campus and recruit. Before this year, only your 10 assistant coaches could actually go off campus and recruit. That was guys like Blake Baker, Corey Raymond, Peoples, Sterling Lucas. That was your defensive coaches that could actually leave campus and recruit. Now the rules have changed. You can have 16 coaches off campus recruit. And it's huge because Coach O is going to jump right into recruiting. And he's good at it. He is one of the top recruiters of all time. That's why 16 coaches that can go off campus and recruit. That's why you see guys like Chris Kiffin being able to go off campus. Yes, Chris Kiffin is your assistant defensive coordinator, but he is not one of the top 10 coaches. And before this year would not have been able to go off the field to recruit. Off the campus. Neither would Coach O. But now that the rule change, 16 coaches can do it. Coach O, Chris Kiffin, guys like that can go into homes when it's not a dead period and recruit these players. And that right there makes this hire well worth it. Now, it's just a 1-year contract, $100,000, but I can see this going longer. It's probably a 1-year contract to see how it works out, see how things go. And it's $100,000. Another $100,000 that you don't have to pay. You're already paying him for firing him when you did, so he's already getting paid by the program. The main reason this is a good hire is because when Lane Kiffin gets hired, and people were talking about, you got to keep Frank Wilson because of his recruiting in New Orleans. You got to keep Frank Wilson because he is a top recruiter. No, you don't. You bring in Kevin Smith as your running back coach. You let Frank Wilson go to Ole Miss because Frank Wilson, yes, hell of a recruiter. The developmental side of it is not as great. But now you bring in Coach O, who is respected in all Louisiana high schools around the state. He can go into New Orleans and get you a guy from Carr. He can go into New Orleans and get you a guy from St. Aug. He has the ties to the state. He has the ties to New Orleans. So there you go. And I can promise you, Coach O head up with Frank Wilson for a New Orleans guy. That's epic. So Coach O on your staff as a recruiting assistant and a defensive assistant, I can guarantee he's going to be coaching that defensive line. Then you get Coach O on the sideline, the fiery Coach O. We've all heard the press conferences. We've all heard the locker room speeches. You get all that. The Go Tigers. You're going to get that again. The man has a fire for this program, for this state. And he's bringing that back to your program. Can only make you better. That's it. He had an interview where they asked him what he thought of Brian Kelly's fake accent speech when he came in. And Coach O said the minute he heard it, he knew Brian Kelly wouldn't win here. He knew that, if you got a fake to try to fit in, that's not going to be good for this university, for LSU. Well, Coach O don't have to fake anything. He is Louisiana. He is LSU. So I'm happy and I'm excited to see how this is going to work out. I look forward to this football season. Like, this is one of the first seasons in a long time that you're like really, really excited. Now, we get excited when, August, September rolls around. We all get excited for football season. But this year, to see what's going to happen with Lane Kiffin and this team is one of the best excitements, anticipations that I've had in a long time. And I'm happy for it. Clemson comes to Baton Rouge week 1, game days there. The atmosphere is going to be electric. And now you throw in Coach O to hype this team up more. And let's not even talk about when you go to Ole Miss. It was already a big thing going to Ole Miss in the 3rd week with Lane Kiffin, their former ex-head coach. Now you're going back to Ole Miss with not only Kiffin, but Coach O. 2 former Ole Miss head coach, both going back to Oxford. It just makes this game so much more. Now, you have to get through Clemson. You have to get through week 2. But that game in Oxford is one of the most anticipated games ever in LSU history. And it's just a SEC game on the opening SEC game of the season. But the history makes everything it is. So I'm excited to see this football team. I'm excited to see how Coach O changes the recruiting aspect of this team, how he brings the fire, he brings the drive. I'm very excited for it. And I can't wait for week 1 against Clemson. It's going to be great. So we learned about the Coach O news on Wednesday as we're watching LSU baseball SEC tournament game against Auburn on Wednesday night. Now, going into the SEC tournament, you knew that you had to win the tournament to move on. Tall task, especially having to play on Tuesday. And you got to play 5. You got to win 5 games in 6 days. It hasn't been done often. And matter of fact, if you see all your higher seeds are the ones moving on, that shows you right there, who normally wins these tournaments. So going into the SEC tournament, you knew it was going to be a tall task. Now, you went on Tuesday. You beat Oklahoma in what turned out to be different than what you expected. You go into Tuesday thinking William Schmidt's going to start after you rest him against Florida, but then he goes to warm up and he has back discomfort, back tightness, and he can't pitch. So you have to punt again. Same thing you had to do when you had to scratch Casey Evans and go with Gavin Guidry. And we see how that one turned out when you had to throw all your big arms to try to win that game against Mississippi State, and you still end up losing. But Tuesday was a little different. You throw Grant Fino, you throw Gavin Guidry, and you throw Devin Sheeran. Your bats do enough to get you the win and to move on to the second round. It was expected. A lot of people expected LSU to win Tuesday night against Oklahoma because Oklahoma basically treated it like a midweek game. Oklahoma is already in regionals. They can't move up. They can't move down. They were in a secure spot. So a lot of people picked LSU to win that game, and they did. I think they won 6-2. Stephen Milam hit a 2-run homer in the 8th to give you a little cushion. Pitching was outstanding. You get 3 1/3 from Gavin Guidry, 3 1/3 from Devin Sheeran, and you win the game. So you go into Wednesday having Casey Evans, who we've seen come back from his injury on the Sunday against Georgia. He had 1 good inning and he couldn't get out the second. Then he throws against Florida on this Friday, 40 pitches in relief. He wasn't spectacular. Casey Evans came out Wednesday night and threw well. Very, very well. And it just gives you a glimpse of what you have next year. I think he went 4 2/3, got you into the 5th. He only gave up 1 earned run, which is a solo home run. He would give up another run on an error in the 5th to give Auburn the lead 2-1, and LSU's never able to overcome that. And they lose 3-1. The offense has been carrying this team here of late, but you face Auburn's ace on Wednesday, and Auburn was announced before the game that Butch Thompson said that they're playing to win the tournament. They was not punting and things like that. They were playing to win the tournament. That's why they throw their ace. It also was said that he was only going to throw 67 pitches. He ends up throwing close to 80, maybe more. So that tells you right there that Auburn wants to win that game. And they shut the offensive down. Offense, gets one run on a double by Derek Curiel, sacrifice, bunt, sack fly. Great thing to see, what you haven't seen much of this year, but that was all you could quantum. Now you've seen ABS come into effect. How bad the officials have been this year, how bad the umpires have been. The number of overturned calls in this tournament just shows how bad the SEC officials have been. You see Kason Evans. Kason Evans throws, great on Wednesday night. He gets a lot of low strike pitches that were called balls, but you challenge and you get it as a strike. Now, how does Kason Evans look during the regular season if he gets a lot of them calls that he got on Wednesday night? A lot of them pitches that were called balls that were actually strikes. You might get a different Kason Evans, right? But he looks good. And I'm excited to see the future of Kason Evans. What do we get next year? Does he stay in that Friday night role? Does he stay a starter, or do you use him as relief? You go to the portal, you get, a high profile pitcher. What do you do with Kason Evans? I mean, there's many options. This year he was your best option for Friday night. Is that the same case next year? He wants to be a starter. He has the stuff to be a starter if he can conquer it all. But does he stay in that role? But Tigers lose 3-1 on Wednesday, ending their season, failing to make the postseason since 2011. They had the third longest streak in the country of making the postseason. Number one was Vanderbilt, who probably is going to miss the tournament. Number two was Florida, who will make the tournament. And then you have LSU, which that streak will come to an end. And the season ending also ends the career of a couple seniors, Zach Cowan, Chris Stanfield, Seth Dardar, Connor Benj, Braden Simpson, Dax Dothy, Zach York, Tanner Reeves. Those seniors, they're out of eligibility. This was their last game playing for LSU. Now you have guys who were celebrated on senior day, like Jaden Newt, DJ Primo, Eddie Yaman, who are redshirt juniors who still have options and can still come back, but you celebrate them on senior day. That tells you a lot. Not saying they're not going to come back, but you celebrate them. And then you have guys who have, a decision to make. Derek Curiel. Many believe he's a first-round pick. I don't expect to see Derek Curiel back. Would be nice to come back, but I don't see it happening. Jake Brown, pretty much gone. You give Jake Brown the kind of tribute you did against Florida on Saturday. That tells you right there, Jake Brown's not coming back. Jake Brown is going to be a high draft pick, second, third round. Great career at LSU. It's a shame we didn't get to see him play to finish out the season because of an injury, but he's done a lot for LSU, national champion. He's good to see. And then you have a guy like Gavin Guidry who has a decision to make. Gavin Guidry throws good on Wednesday, possibly one of his best outings of the year. He does have an option to come back. Where does he get drafted money-wise? Does he come back? He's been at LSU already 4 years. He had a medical red shirt, so next year would be his 5th year. But he has that option. Devin Sharon, same thing. He actually has 2 years of eligibility left. Because of the medical red shirt last year, he still has options. He can come back for a junior year and rise his stock even more and then go in the draft next year. But he can also get picked this year. You've seen the stuff he has. Big righty throwing 98, 99 miles an hour. Teams see that, fall in love with it. It takes one team to see that, fall in love with it, give him the money he wants, and he don't come back. But, you take your chance. He may come back, he may not. Now, you have a guy like Stephen Milam. And a lot of people say, well, he's gone for sure. Stephen Milam will be a senior next year if he returns. And he loses all his draft stock. Okay. Ryan Terrio mentioned this in a video that, Stephen Milam, say he goes this year, he gets drafted. They offer him $1.5 million signing bonus. Stephen Milam could come back to LSU and get that same money in NIL. He might not get that much. He can get close to it. He gets drafted this year as a junior. He goes into single A ball, plays the whole year in single A ball, maybe makes it to double A by next year. He comes back to LSU next year as a 4-year starter in the SEC and then gets drafted next year. He probably goes straight to double A. So now you're in the same position that you was in if you leave this year as you leave not next year. And it's also said that you don't make your money in the MLB when you're drafted. You make your money on your second contract when you make it to the major leagues. So what's the quickest way to make it to the major leagues is to go straight to double A ball and get you one step closer. But he has a decision to make. Do I see him coming back? I say it's about 50-50. I would love to see him come back. Best shortstop, LSU's had, in my opinion. He's right up there with Bregman. Defensively, Milam is the greatest, without a doubt. Bregman, offensive side, may be a little bit better, but Milam's a 300 hitter and plays the defense he does. So I would take that all day, every day. You see a guy like Justin LeBron over at Alabama, who people just freaking love. He was projected to be the number 1 pick coming into this year. He's still projected to be a middle of the first round pick. The guy's made 19 or 18 errors on the year. You watch an Alabama game, he makes a play in the hole, and they just like googly fall in love with it, like saying he's the only guy in the country who can make that play. No, I've seen Stephen Milam make that play 2 to 3 times a game. Justin LeBron has 18 errors on the year. He is nowhere near the defensive player that Stephen Milam is. Stephen Milam is the best defensive shortstop in the country, without a doubt. And he hits 300, double-digit home runs on the year. He's been a 3-year starter for you. Postseason Milam is a different thing. When postseason or the end of the season comes around, Stephen Milam just turns up a notch. So, if he comes back for another year, great. That's your starting shortstop, leader of your team. If he doesn't, it's been a great career. I've really enjoyed watching him. We're going to do a show. We're going to do a show later on, kind of break down the season. We're not really going to do that today. We're going to do a show maybe next week on that, break down the season and, talk about what went wrong and things like that. But if you can get Stephen Milam to come back for one more year, it will be special. Because I can promise you, Jay Johnson is going to do some things this offseason. He is not going to put another team like he did this year out on the field. And I'm not saying it's a bad team. Because individually, you have a lot of talent on this team. It just wasn't put together when needed. And I can promise you, Jay Johnson is going to work harder than anyone to fix that. He's going to hit the portal hard. This is the first year that Jay Johnson can fully hit the portal. Usually the Tigers are playing in a regional, super regional Omaha. He can't put his full attention into building this team. This year he can. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Baseball, February 19th, 2027, opening day for LSU baseball. That's 273 days away. And I am excited, without a doubt, to see what happens. But before we have that next year, we got to go through football season. We have to go through basketball season. And I expect big things out of all 3 of them programs this year, which was a down year, which we're going to talk about at the end of the show. But it was a down year for LSU sports in general. I'm looking for a huge turnaround next year by all 3 of the major sports. Football with Lane Kiffin, basketball with Will Wade, baseball, Jay Johnson, a rebound year. Very excited. Like I said, 273 days away from baseball. We're less than 100 days away from football. So we'll see what happens. I know it's gonna suck this weekend, kind of watching the regionals and super regionals, things like that. Uh, without LSU being involved, but it's a great time. Next Friday, you'll have regionals kicking off, have all of them on TV. We're so used to watching LSU on that day, but we won't be able to. You know why? Because we're spoiled. Brian Kelly said it best as an LSU baseball fan.
You know what? You're spoiled. You're spoiled.
We're spoiled. And I promise you, we're going to be spoiled again after this all season when you see what Jay Johnson does. You could hold my feet to the fire right now. LSU will be in Omaha next year. I'm making the call now. They will be in Omaha next year. It's going to happen. All right, so that's enough of that baseball. LSU basketball. Will Wade is making some moves. He said that he was going to build this team a lot through the international players, and he has. Now he's making moves that, the media and other people around the country don't like. But you know what? He's not breaking any rules. He is doing what is allowed to do within the rules that are there. Now, if it was against the rules, you can have a problem with it, but it's not. There is no rule against what he is doing. You're going to sign a guy that's been playing overseas for a couple years. Guess what? There's no rule that says you can't do that. And I can promise you, the guys that he is getting signed, he is not the only coach that is after them. I can promise you some of the other big teams are after these same players. But it's only a problem because LSU is hiring because we have Will Wade. People don't like Will Wade. But guess what? As a fan of LSU, I don't see a problem with what he's doing. He's going to get guys with experience playing in the international level. You can't get that in a high school kid. Now, plan is in the works to start the new rule of a 5 years to play and 5-year thing. And once that comes into effect, what he's doing this year, you won't be able to do. But right now you can because there's no rules against it. Now you do get a guy like RJ Lewis. Played at St. John's, was the 2025 Big East Player of the Year. Goes undrafted, signs with Utah as a two-way player, but he does not play in a game. He doesn't play in a G League game. He gets released before even playing a game. Gets signed by Utah and still doesn't play in a game. But now he's committed to LSU. He is ineligible, but they're going to work the channels. They're going to work the system to try to get him eligible, which I don't see a problem with it. Nobody else seen a problem with it when Alabama did it this year. I know people complain when Ole Miss did it with Trinidad Chambliss, tried to get another year. I really don't have a problem with it. You want to play college and then you can, in the rules says you can play. Now, I believe Trinidad Chambliss should have went to the NFL because I believe he's good enough to do that. But Ole Miss did the same thing, and, everybody was fine with it. They even got a Mississippi judge who cried when given the verdict to say that Trinidad Chambliss can play. So they did what they needed to do. You don't think that's a little sketchy that you go get a Ole Miss grad to make that decision? And you didn't see a big outburst from the media on that, did you? But no, Will Wade goes get a guy that, yes, he was in the NBA, never played. You didn't see the media outburst when Alabama did it last year. You like people like Golden at Florida are complaining about LSU and their older players. They're international players. You know how many players on Florida's team are older with international play? Quite a few. He ain't talking about that. He's talking about Will Wade. Like I said, RJ Lewis is the tricky one. You have to get him eligible. If he doesn't, you still have a good class you put together. But having RJ Lewis would help out so much more. You got a lot of experience. A guy like Yam Mater, he's 25 years old. I know that sounds weird. You're recruiting a 25-year-old to play college basketball, but as of right now he's not eligible. But they're fighting that as well, and his don't have to do with nothing with the NBA or anything like that. It has to do with his military, something with his military. I didn't get deep into it, but as of right now, he's not eligible. But I don't think that Will Wade is going to go and get this guy thinking that he's not going to be able to get him eligible. He was drafted in the NBA in 2020. So, it's like I say, he's 25 years old. This team right now, with the players that are committed for next season, their average age is older than the San Antonio Spurs average age of player. And that could be a good thing. You got players with experience playing in the Euro League, which next to the NBA is the best league there is. You got two big centers that are coming in, both 23 years old. Bryce Desert and Marcio Santos both played in the Euro League, playing against guys that are, right close to being in the NBA. So if you're going to go get players to fill your team, that's kind of guys you want. Some of these guys have played against some of the best NBA players there are. I think Bryce Desert was teammates with Victor whatever his name is, Victor Yamawamba. I'm sorry, I don't really know how to pronounce his name, but these guys have played against guys like that. I think there's only one player that is committed to play this year that is under 20 years old, and then he's 19. So you're going to see a different style of basketball this year from LSU. You're going to see a more of an international brand of basketball. That's a lot of, outside shooting, things like that. And I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see what Will Wade brings to this program. I'm excited to see the future of LSU basketball return to life to the PMAC, which it once was, making it the Deaf Dome that it's known for. I could tell you the last time I went to a basketball game was when Will Wade was there. I didn't go to any Mac McMahon games because, Mac McMahon just didn't do it for me. And he was a good coach. He just wasn't the type of coach you need for this program. But yeah, so you got to have to be excited about that. But like I said, they have the rule is coming when the 5-for-5 comes into play, and once that comes, you're not going to be able to get guys like you are now. So take advantage of it while you can. And I'm excited to see what comes of it. And then we get into LSU softball. LSU softball starts their super regional today as they take on number 1 Alabama. LSU, the 16th seed, host the regional last week in Baton Rouge, in which they dominate the regional, outscoring opponents 23-2, beating a team like Virginia Tech. So LSU is the 16th seed, which means that you get the top 2 seed in the country, which was Virginia Tech, who is basically like the 17th team in the country, and LSU dominates them. I know the season didn't start out great for LSU softball. They went open SEC play, going 1-5, I believe. Yeah, they started SEC play going 1-5. They go 3-6, 4-8, and then they go on a run. They go 9-2 in conference to earn that 16th seed to be able to host a regional at home. So they, like I said, they go into Alabama, face Alabama on the road, who is the number 1 team in the country, and they're 2 wins away from going to Oklahoma. It feels weird saying Oklahoma because you're so used to saying Omaha with the baseball team, but the Women's College World Series is in Oklahoma City, a place LSU hasn't been since 2017. 9 years since LSU's made it to the Women's College World Series. And at that time, they had made it 3 years in a row. I think LSU has been to the Women's College World Series 5 times. So they haven't been there since 2017, and they're 2 wins away from making that happen. And it's exciting. I'm gonna be watching. I don't watch every softball game. I'll turn it on if I'm at home, but I'm definitely gonna be watching this weekend because we don't have baseball to watch. So show the Lady Tigers some support, cheer them on in the Super Regionals. Hopefully they can get the wins they need, move on to Oklahoma, and still gives us something to watch. We talked about last week about this being possibly the worst season in LSU academic year sports wise. And now the baseball season is over, found out that this is the first time in 50 years that all 3 programs finished with an SEC record or conference record under 500. All 3 teams finished with a conference record of under 500. Since 1960, 66, 67, this was the first year that's happened. So this could possibly be the worst year academic-wise for sports in LSU history. We talked about it last week. We went back and looked at, LSU baseball and basketball would struggle, but football would have a great season or something like that. But not since 1967, 1966, 1967 year that all 3 teams finished with a losing record in SEC play. That's amazing. I'm 41 years old, so this is definitely the worst season in my history and goes back to 50 years ago. So I expect some big things coming from these programs this year. Big bounce back year from all 3. I don't expect conference losing record from any of them. I expect big things, and I'm excited for it. One more thing before we get out of here, I want to bring something up. It's not LSU, it's not Louisiana related, but NASCAR driver Kyle Busch dies unexpectedly yesterday at 41 years old. 41 years old. Goes into the hospital with an illness. It wasn't specified of what it was, but he don't make it out. Just 10 days ago, he's racing NASCAR Truck Series and wins the race. And they asked him, he's all emotional after the race, and they asked him, "Why are you so emotional? You've done this so many times." And his statement was, "You celebrate every one because you don't know when it's going to be your last." And for him, that was. Now he's done things this whole week, like going to a track race with his son, things like that. And then all unexpectedly, he's in the hospital and passes away at 41, which shows you, you never know when it's your turn. You never know. Don't hold grudges. Don't hate. Don't leave your house without telling your loved ones you love them or doing something nice for someone, because you never know when you're not going to have that chance. It can happen just like that. You look at somebody like Kobe Bryant, who dies in a helicopter crash unexpectedly. You don't think that there's, people out there or that didn't get a chance to tell them bye or tell them they love him, or maybe didn't, wasn't agreeing with him at the time or wasn't talking to him at the time because of something that happened. Well, guess what? Now they don't get the chance. Same thing with Kyle Busch. You pass away unexpectedly. You don't get to tell that person you love them, you appreciate them ever again. So that's just something to think about, Don't leave the house without telling your loved ones you love them. Give your kids a hug. Kiss them goodnight, because you never know. But that's going to do it today for this week's show. I appreciate everyone who joined, everyone who goes back and watch this. I do. I appreciate the ones who support me, who continue to support me. I might not have as many as I have before, but I appreciate the ones who still do, who still support me, who still reach out, who still interact with me, things like that. Things happen. People have their differences. But I do appreciate everyone who still join, who still watches, and who still supports. It means a lot. I do this because it's fun and I love to do it. You don't have to be watching. You don't have to go back and watch it, but I appreciate you for doing it. Um, do something nice for someone. Like AP says, open the door for someone. Tell them hello. You never know what kind of mood they're in. You know, that simple hello or that simple gesture to them can change their whole mood. Life's too short to walk around angry and hating people. You know, enjoy life. Be happy. Um, follow me on all the socials, X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. If you want a Tiger Joker Unleashed shirt, reach out. I can get you one. Not looking to make money off of it. Just, want to get the brand out there, show support, things like that. So if you want one, please reach out. I can definitely do that for you. We're going to come back next week. We're just going to keep doing the show. We might not have, much sports wise to talk about, but we're going to make things happen. I'm in the works of getting some guests on the show. I look forward to that. But we're going to be back every week. We'll have something to talk about. We'll come up with something. But again, thank you for all who are here. Thank you. If you go back and watch this, like it, share it, all that. I know it wasn't, a long show, but we got a lot of information in. If there's anything you want to ever hear about or talk about, send me a message, comment, something like that. I would gladly, take topics to talk about, suggestions and things like that. But until then, till next week, thank you again. And I will see y'all next week.
We're walking on it.